But I did want to ask you about the online coaching because I know that's something that you've transitioned into and you've done really well with it. And I think you also offer a very unique perspective. As most instructional courses and online stuff, they're focusing, okay, learn XYZ technique like this. Whereas I had the pleasure of joining you in a seminar and you're teaching it, and it's a very, very different approach where you're doing more about, like you said, the why of certain concepts, and it's kind of open-ended, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it was kind of a very unique twist on things. So I don't know if you can
Yeah.
talk about like how did you, I guess, go into that teaching mode, because most people don't really teach specifically that way. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like even myself, like I do teach like certain concepts when I teach like a Kimura or something like that, but it's not completely conceptual. Like
Yeah.
yours is
Well,
more like.
I think that straight away I teach like that because that's the way I like to teach and that's the way I learn jiu-jitsu. So I prefer to teach more theoretically than practically. And I think there's just so many people doing the practical stuff like yourself, so many amazing coaches that can teach technically and most likely better than what I can teach technically. But I've gone to a niche part of the industry that most people don't focus on, which is like the theoretical aspect of jiu-jitsu and understanding jiu-jitsu. So I feel like most people are teaching people what to do. I'm trying to teach people why they should do that. And I'm also trying to look at teaching people how to learn. I think like one of the most important things in learning anything is learning, like understanding how you actually learn. How does my brain, figure this out? How does my brain absorb this information? So I've tried to really sort of corner that market of the game and steer away from techniques, because occasionally someone will ask me like, why don't you do some technique stuff? It's like, it's already there.
It's plenty, yeah. I agree with you.
Go to Rob's, go to Dave's. Like,
Yeah.
they've got the techniques there. Yeah. But if you want the mental stuff, that's more what I do.
You know about the mental stuff. I think it's, first of all, it's far more important. I think it's the biggest, it's the most important thing in the whole equation here is how do we, how to get your mind ready to win, right? There's a number of factors that go into that, and we can talk about that some other time, but like there's a hyper focus on the technique, I feel like. Everyone's like obsessed. If I only learn one more sweep from open guard, then I'll win a world title. I'm like, dude, you can have 2 sweeps or 1 and still win. There's this other stuff. But the thing about the psychological aspect you're talking about, I'm actually curious to see your product, because like I'm not familiar with it, but like it is difficult to teach because you're talking about concepts, and a lot of it goes back to emotions too, and how your mind is wired. And some people, I think they really struggle with competition and being competitive. Like I had people like walk up to me and go, Rob, I know what you're talking about, that I need to be more competitive. I just can't do it. And they're trying. You can see they're trying to change that about themselves, but they really struggle. And it's the psychological aspect is the most important, but it's hard to teach.
Yeah. I think with that, you have to lead by example more than anything. And I definitely don't try and teach people to get into like that competitive mindset. It's more what I try and teach people is to understand how they learn things and how their brain works, and why certain things will help you, and to how to maximize your training to get the best results. And I feel like at the moment, most people, and it's like the 80-20 rule that Vilfredo Pareto come up with, that 20% of your results come from 80% of your actions, and 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions. So I feel like I've found a good position and a good area that I can tell you what that 20% is, and get you to throw away the other 80% that gives you such little returns, and focus mainly on what that is, which is skill acquisition, which is what we talked about at the start. Just basically creating better problem solvers, which then creates better artists, because you go through it yourself. So all I'm really trying to do is create a platform to help people get the best out of themselves, because I think a lot of people get mistaken by trying to mechanically get the best out of someone. Like, I'm going to teach you how to get, how to be the best you are. You can't do that. All you can do is create a safe environment for them to develop that themselves. So I'm trying to do that. I've just created a product it's about, most of my products are like 1 hour long, and they're more specific on certain areas, like the art of learning jiu-jitsu was basically explaining my methodology of learning and how to change the way you look at jiu-jitsu to maximize the results. And it blew up. We sold, I think, 15,000 copies of that one.
I'm
and
stealing
got
your
great
idea,
feedback.
by the way. That's my next prize. We're in competition, kid.
Damn it.
Just open my mind. I'm not even bullshit. You actually gave me a lot of ideas.
Good. I think
I'm going to steal Kid's program.
It is a great thing. We should do something together.
No, man. No, because what you're saying, man, is something I've always believed in. I've always thought. And I thought about, I'm going to do an open guard DVD. And I'm going, why on earth would I do it You know how many times it's been done? I can't compete with how Rafael Mendy is there. I'm not going to be honest with you. I can't, but I feel that, what you're describing is something that maybe you can add something that is more important. It might open a window. Because maybe they don't get all of it, right, Kit? But if they sometimes, I'm sure this has happened to you guys, someone says something and it opens like a whole new set of doors. Like, whoa, never thought about that, right? It's a concept. And it goes, and a whole world expands right in front of you. And that's huge, man. If you can do... and
I understand like your conceptual base, like, and I could see why you're apprehensive of drilling, because drilling doesn't generally encourage creativity, right? Like I said, the sequence I'm talking about, it's all orchestrated already, right? And in some of these drills, now not all the drills are like that, but
it can generate inspiration though.
Yeah,
which I think is a good thing. So I think. And I'm not as against drilling as what most people do. It's more like it's a fun thing, and like that whole no drilling. I never ever enforced no one allowed to drill. They can do whatever they want. All my students can do what they want. A guy made it, and I thought it was funny. But I think that like looking at, and I'll look at what you guys do, and I'm not necessarily, let's say, and if you show me something, I'm not going to go back and drill it heaps, but I'm going to look at it and I'm going to think about it, and it's going to be inspiration for when I'm in that position. Then I've got like something I know it's available, and I might be able to take half of it and go, I really like that half of it, but your legs are a little bit longer here, so it's probably going to create more issues here, and just it's all inspiration for me, and I think so. I think techniques are great for that, and I'm definitely not against that, and I think that people with technique videos, buy those videos. I never say don't buy someone's videos because they're telling you to drill. I don't do that, but don't go crazy with the drilling. Try and understand why those techniques work, which is a thing that most coaches really struggle to articulate. And I know you guys don't, because I remember especially when I first come to you and Kabaka were there, and I love the way you guys were teaching, because you were explaining like why we're doing certain things and more what was going through your head than just what you're physically doing. And you're the same, and you helped me a lot with the wrestling with that. And I wish more coaches would focus on that. And that's kind of like the new product that I've got, and I haven't named it yet. But it drops on the 12th of October. It's going to be 5.5 hours long, and it's going to basically cover like all the reasoning why I train the way I am, how to do it yourself, how to basically structure your training to get the best out of yourself. And I'm not pretending that I'm going to create any little clones of me. That's not at all what it's about. It's about giving you the same information that I had to get my black belt in 4 years, so that you can do the same thing, if not better, or however you want to do it. But that's what more, it's like a theory. It's more like a, when you go into a lecture than what it is. There's heaps of, physical stuff as well. And I show heaps of techniques and why I'm doing it, but I'm focusing mainly on the mental area of jiu-jitsu. And I'm actually really pumped to sell this. I shot it with really good quality. Like it cost me a fortune. The production value is going to be amazing. We just shot all this B-roll footage 2 days ago. My body can barely move now from it. So it's going to be like, I try to model it on, I don't know if you've ever seen the masterclasses online, just the general masterclasses, the same sort of platform.
I know of it.
Okay, so they're fantastic. Like I watch the acting ones all the time, directing ones, there's food, cooking ones. I've tried to go basically model that, which I feel like is a really good platform for learning.
Stop giving me ideas, kid.
And,
I'm going to steal them all.
And and then Robert are going to do one next, so I can't steal it. But that is the next step, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because the next step of this was, because I think BJJ fanatics have done good in the technical side of things.
Yeah.
But there's no, other than myself, I don't think anyone's really filming what we're talking about.
And it's saturated.
Yeah.
And there's one reason, people are like, why don't you film, Rob? And I'm like, there's always part of me that I don't like doing what everyone else has done.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a part of me. It's like, I like what you did, right? Because you got a move that everyone knew, but you created it you put it in a structured way that really helps people map it out, right? And I like that. I've never, that approach I like. But there's always a part of me, like, unless I'm showing something that no one's ever done before, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm more interested in being like, I don't know, just like original, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, one thing I want to do is, this is your opportunity to steal my idea. Maybe it's not a great one.
Get my pen
You
out
tell me.
right
But I always wanted to do, like, something I've always done well is taking the back when the person's standing. Because I got a lot of that from like MMA. So I want to do something like that, for example, right? Because people don't know how to take the back when the person's standing up. They think, they jump. Everyone wants to jump. It's like probably the worst thing you can do. So like that's the kind of stuff that's to me is interesting. But I love your approach because I feel it, like we were discussing, people focus on The technical side to me is like, what color do you paint the wall? And that's great if you want to paint it white, brown, black, whatever color you want. But the structure, the blueprint.
Yeah. There's an algorithm behind that.
Yes, that is the most important aspect, and it's so hard to train. And me and Mikey and David, we talked about this extensively. But I think it's the key ingredient, man. Like, that's the common denominator. Because I know people that never drill the day of their life and win. I know people who drill a lot and win.
Hodge Gracie said the same thing in an interview recently. He's like, I never drill. I always do specific training. Look at him.
But the common denominator, I think, is something else. It's not the color of the wall. It's the wall itself.
One thing that's very important, and this is why your style of teaching is so good, is that you're focusing a lot on the mental aspect, right? And like Rob is saying, it's easy to understand a physical movement when you're watching a video, like, oh, but what you're not seeing is what's happening in here, and this is arguably a lot more important because this is controlling everything else. And it's one thing I didn't mention, like when I'm doing my drills, there's also an emphasis of what's going through my head as I do the drill, So there's a specific
tangerine monkeys like ding ding.
A little drum. But there's a lot going on here that I have to orchestrate at the same time because essentially I want to, like a golfer, the key thing is having the right mental state when they hit the ball.
Yeah.
If they can always get the same mental state, they're going to get the same result, which is, getting a hole in one or whatever the case is. The same thing goes with your fighting, with your jiu-jitsu, or anything in your life. If you don't have the right mental state, the physical actions are not going to work right.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of the drilling that I do is focusing on that as well. But the drilling by itself doesn't give you the mechanical understanding that you're teaching, right?
You're kind of cloning, you're replicating.
You're replicating something. That's why what I was talking about. It doesn't inspire creativity in the sense that you're just doing this and you're gonna get good at doing this, but then you don't know the next thing because you don't understand the physics behind the move or the reasoning or the timing. So
I used to do this in mathematics, and it'll be exactly what you're saying. I used to sit there and I'd look at my friend next to me, and I would see his answer, so I would put all his answers on me. And then it'd come to test day, and I'd be there, and he's like 10 meters away. So I'm like, fuck, I can't see. I had no idea. I literally wouldn't even fill it out. The teachers would just know what's going on because I never really figured out the algorithm or the formula to those. If I had been smarter, I would have said, okay, let me get my head around this formula or cared. Yes. Yeah. Then I'll work it out, and that's what those kids. And I think what we're both touching on is there is a formula to everything. There is a formula to everything, and most people have figured it out. And I think. When you're talking about painting walls, when I paint models as well, but I don't understand the color palette formula. So I don't know what colors work with what. But the really good people know that, and they have that all there. So they know that the greens and the browns and they have an earthly color, and they give you a certain feeling. If we go to music, okay, I know how to imitate people's songs, okay, but I have no idea about music. But if you look at the blues scale, which is a certain scale, if you learn that. I think it's like 89 or 90% of all songs use the blues scale. So you can find that. Is. The blues scale, yeah. We need to figure that out, mate. I do as well. Someone taught me a little bit, but I wasn't interested enough to figure out the blues scale. But if I did, my guitar work would be 100 times better. And I think that what all three of us offer that we really need to focus on is we know the scales, the algorithms for what we do. And that's what we need to give students rather than just showing, okay, this is the outcome I came up with. We need to give them the information so that they can come up with the same, or their own outcome and create their own artists. Because if you look at all three of us, we're very unique. We're not imitations of anyone. Your style's very unique, my style's unique, your style's unique. And people need to understand that they have to do the same route. If they really want that mastery or anything like that, that's the way it is. There's no fast tracking it. There's no copy these techniques and copy these techniques and then you're going to be amazing. No, you need that information behind there and you need to come up with yourself. And that's why I feel like the conceptual route, which we all teach in and which I'm selling online, is going to be the future of teaching jiu-jitsu. And I think more and more people are starting to figure it out. It's just, there's a lot of people holding on to old things.
It's hard. Because sometimes I'll bring it up in class, and you can see that people are interested because I think they recognize it's important. But I'm not sure. How many things about yourself that you got to change, you know what to do, but you fall into the habits of not changing it. I have things like that all the time, right? It's very difficult. But I think me and Dave were talking about this a while ago. You just got to keep reminding yourself. Remind yourself until you create that that pathway in your brain and it's just it's awareness, right? The number one step getting caught in the triangle, not getting caught in the triangle, is recognizing you're about to get caught in the triangle.
Yeah. And I think that as you teach, the more you teach like that, the more you start figuring out easier ways to get your students to understand what you're saying and to really engaging. When I first started teaching this way, it would say the same sort of thing, like people kind of listening, and because I wasn't really articulating it well. Now when I do seminars, it's crazy. People sitting there like this, like listening everywhere. They're like, yes. Yeah. Because I feel like I knew, like at first I had to become self-aware of what was I doing and why was I doing it, and then how can I give that to them? And there's amazing athletes everywhere that are not self-aware, and if they can't give what they're doing to that student, they have zero value in a coaching sense.
Yes.
And I think that because I know you guys so well, and I know you guys coach that, it is a waste for you not to really get that stuff online more for more people to see. Because I know it's done.
We're gonna have a business discussion after this podcast. Me, David, and Kit, we sit down, put together like an amazing product. Like, no, I 100% agree with you, Kit. I think that. Well, you know what? Like overall, just to summarize the conversation, I love what we're talking about is over. It's the evolution of the sport, like how much it's evolved. Even like instruction now is getting to a much higher level. My first instructor in Brazil, it's probably the way he learned. It was literally like, go. Not even set the timer. It was just like he'd sit down and say go, and you just grabbed your partners, whoever it was, but watching from that to what we're talking about here is huge. I mean, we're talking about scientific research that is back in this methodology versus that methodology, and I really appreciate that evolution. I as a passionate practitioner of the sport, I love how far we've come.